had to really talk to my mind and say, you're the CFO, not the CEO. I'm going to make my heart my CEO.
Even through connecting with the heart, it has to start with the intention and the decision to connect to the heart, which starts in the mind. Everything starts in the mind. Any blocks we have, anything we're capable of doing or not capable of doing, at the end of the day, the decision-making process is the mind. The war on our attention is really much of a distraction of what's happening behind the scenes. If you really dig deep and you start to go down the rabbit hole, you will realize there's other things happening to steer us away into, unfortunately, into a world that is not in our favor. Why are they doing that? Well, because they want to capture people's attention. Great. How are they doing it? With fear. Great. So in the future, when that happens again, when there's fear, I need to question it. Conscious mind, subconscious mind, which most people don't talk about, is the superconscious mind, which is the mind of God, which is the mind where we can only access it through deep disconnection of our outside environments and go inwards and stop the thought. The most important thing is to understand that is doable. It's available. It's scientific backed. It's neurotransformational work. It's understanding that we have the language to get to the subconscious mind and change the programming.
If this show is resonating with you, don't just feel it, support it. Follow the show, subscribe on YouTube, turn on the bell, drop a comment, or leave a rating on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're tuning in. It takes just a few seconds, but it helps this message reach the people who need it. We feel your support and we're grateful for it. Now let's get back to the show.
Welcome to the EnlightenDXB Podcast. I'm your host, Erica Welch, and I'm so excited today because today we are diving into something that I think is one of the defining battles of our time. The battle for our attention, our nervous system, and ultimately our consciousness. Today, I'm sitting down with Sam Daghash, who is an alignment and breakthrough specialist. And he's here to talk to us about how to break our unconscious patterns. He works with individuals looking to rewire their minds, regulating the nervous system, dissolving limiting beliefs, and creating what he calls a new mind. And in a world where there's distraction, fear, and emotional triggers, learning how to master your internal state might just be the ultimate spiritual discipline for the spiritual warrior. Sam, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to dive deep today.
Yeah. Sam, you often say everything begins with the mind. What do you mean by that?
Wow, good start to the question. So I would say the mind, the universe is mental. Everything starts with the mind. Everything we create, everything we experience, it has to start with that beautiful essence of who we are, which is the mind. I look at the mind as the software and the body and the brain as the hardware. So in order for us to create or to achieve anything in life, we have to have the mind in alignment of our true essence of who we are, which then we create through that. So everything starts in the mind. Any blocks we have, anything we're capable of doing or not capable of doing, at the end of the day, the decision-making process is the mind.
It's so fascinating to me because I've had quite a journey with the mind. And I think in the world that we live in, as I've gone through the spiritual journey, I've really felt like I've spent a lot of time cultivating my mind. And I think a lot of people feel like they've spent a lot of time cultivating their mind, right? We go through school, academics, everything is like a very strategic mental process. I think the world is sort of rigged that way where they ask you to think about things from different angles. And there was a time where I really felt, wow, everything else has atrophied a little bit. There's so much focus on the mind. There's not enough focus on the heart or maybe the body or, the intuition. And I'm curious how you see this, this bridge where there was a time in my spiritual journey where I had to really talk to my mind and say, you're the CFO, not the CEO. I'm going to make my heart my CEO for right now. What do you say to that? Because I think that's quite a common spiritual journey right now.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is one of the most important things that we always say that when a person operates from the heart, they're more guided, they're more connected to their higher self, to their intuition. And I think what's important, what you mentioned, in other words, I use different words, but we call this conditioning. From the moment we're born in this space and time, in reality, we're conditioned to think, act, and feel a certain way. Now, whether the conditioning is serving us or not, but it's all mind. You rightfully said that we don't teach ourselves of how to create coherence between the heart and the mind. A lot of people are unaware that the heart has its own intelligence. It has its own mind. So yes, there is truth there, but conditioning and the essence of it is all mind. So the mind is going to always direct us, whether we do this consciously or unconsciously. So we need to, even through connecting with the heart, it has to start with the intention and the decision to connect to the heart, which starts in the mind, right? So we come across mentors, spiritual leaders, even certain awakenings that remind us to go back to the heart, because the heart is where love is. The heart is where courage is. The mind can be very tricky because it's connected and interconnected with the ego self. So the ego self is always looking for survival, looking for, looking for bettering the self. And it's not necessarily bad, but it can steer us away from what we're truly here to do in life and what's our true calling. Because we've conditioned to think about that this is the right way. And that was one of my stories. That's how I started this journey, is because I was conditioned to believe that success was a certain way, through school and education, university, parents, culture, that I thought that this is what's going to get me to be happy, right? That's conditioning. That's all started in the mind, until I had my journey of awakening, which was, hang on, if you stay on this path, which was conditioned into my system, it wasn't ever mine. That was steering me away from my heart and from my true calling. And that's where you in life have to discern between what is conditioning and what is truly yours, which is coming from the heart. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, and let's go there, because I know so many people are sitting with this of like, what is conditioning versus what is my true path, and how can you? What are some of the symptoms that you might, or what that you felt on your own journey, where you felt, okay, something is amiss here?
Well, I think ultimately it's one of the easier indicators is we tend to feel that we've ticked the boxes of our reality, of what we've been conditioned to see as success, or that will lead us to a destination of happiness. And when we feel empty, when we feel anxious, when we feel sad, depressed, or whatever, negative emotions or things that just doesn't feel right in our body, usually that's the body speaking to us through the language of emotion, saying that you're out of alignment. This is not where you're meant to be doing. And sometimes we get that through feelings. We get that through little intuitive messages, and a lot of the time we are conditioned to suppress that. We're conditioned to just focus on the next thing, and that's where I feel most people get lost, because they're not listening. They're not making time to go inwards, to actually hear themselves, to hear the truth. I at one stage in my journey, I was waking up every morning with a lump on my throat and heaviness on my chest, and I was still plowing through, even though on the outside world I ticked all the boxes, right, to what success would be in terms of financial success or travel or this or that, but I felt that I was trapped, for my case at least, so feeling trapped was an indicator that something wasn't right, even though everything that I was told was going to give me the sense of fulfillment, and I felt unfulfilled. So usually we all get that, except that some people take action and do something about it and step into the unknown and build the courage to go, I'm tired of this pain. I cannot sit with it, or I'm ready to make a change. Some people wait till they go very low and really in a lot of pain. Then the pain becomes stronger than them. They decide to do something. Some people change along the way. Some people work on themselves in the journey. Everyone's different depending on their story, and where they're at.
Yeah, interesting. And I hear you saying, a lot of people might feel some of these things, but then either avoid them, push them aside, or that they're so distracted that they don't even notice it's
100%.
happening to them.
Hey guys, I just came back from the podcast recording studio, which I spend a lot of time at, and I wanted to fill you in on a new product that I'm using and who is a new sponsor of this show. This is New Mind's Chaga Crystal Black. It's revered as the king of mushrooms, Chaga. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's a sacred adaptogen working in harmony with your body to restore balance from within. What I love about this product in particular is that it's wild harvested, it's lab tested for purity, it delivers one of the highest antioxidant profiles found in nature. And so if you want to support your energy, sharpen your focus, and fortify your immunity without the overstimulation of caffeine or without burnout, step into a more aligned state of being by discovering New Mind Chaga Crystal Black at newmind.ae and use code EDXB15 for 15% off. Enjoy. Now let's get back to the show.
I've also heard you speak about, we're actually in wartime at the moment, right? But it's not this. There's a war in the Middle East going on at the moment. That's probably activating a lot of people. But that has also brought about this completely separate to the war that's happening within the matrix outside on the news, this war on attention that you're talking about. Can you explain to us why we really need to be conscious about this war of our attention?
I think this is a very, very important stage in where we are in our journey today. And this is something that most of us need to take very seriously. Because whether we know this or not, there's a construct that is out there to capture our attention. You see, attention is not just passive, it's a creative power. And when we understand that the collective consciousness of our attention directs reality as per quantum physics, as per science today, this is not woo-woo, this is actual science that proves that. There are powers that be that understand this and understand that the way they capture people's attention, they also hijack their perception. So if you hijack people's perception through the attention, which always comes from fear, by the way, that's most and the easiest form of capturing attention in the human race today, or in our collective consciousness, is through fear. Fear is one that creates distortions, one that creates us to become non-resourceful, and also it creates the illusions of separation. And when that happens, unfortunately, what starts to happen is that you have the more going to the mind, as you said in the beginning, and less from the heart. So the separation happens and we move into survival. We move into a sense of, not thinking about the right decisions. And also we get hijacked by our attention to create a reality that's not something that we want. And unfortunately, that's what happens, and it's been happening for the last couple of decades, but more prominent now. It's more evident now. And my message to my community, to my people, to my family, to my friends, to everyone that knows me, I'm always saying, guard your attention. And the way we guard our attention is literally having intention with where we focus our attention. And we also have to be discerned by, is that making me feel good in my body? Or is that creating more tension? Is it making me feel closed, narrow focus? Or am I able to see the bigger picture? Because if we don't zoom out, we get stuck. We literally get stuck, and it becomes a vicious pattern, and we feed this force. There is a very important thing that I'd love our audience to look up. It's called the observer effect, and the observer effect is science figured out that we have our actual consciousness, our actual observation of something in terms of the atom and the wave function has an influence on matter. So it's not even a discussion anymore. We have influence on reality, and the reality is that the more people are paying attention, the much more powerful it is. So that's why I say there is a war on our attention. And the war on our attention is really much of a distraction of what's happening behind the scenes. Because all of this is smoke. All of this is not really, if you really dig deep and you start to go down the rabbit hole, you will realize there's other things happening to steer us away into, unfortunately, into a world that is not in our favor. And I don't want to say this and sound gloom and doom, but it isn't in our favor when we are disconnected from our heart. On the other side is my invite to everyone to remember that, okay, so how do we tackle it? we tackle it by going back to what you beautifully said at the start of the session or start of the conversation today, which is the heart. The heart is the other side of fear. It's love. And when we see through that, through love, we understand that we're not separate. We understand that that's not my enemy. That we understand that they want the same thing as I want the same thing. And there's ideologies and agendas that is designed to create us, to separate us from a new earth, from a place that we are actually meant to be living in peace and prosperity and abundance, because we've been lied to. We live in an age of abundance. They create lack all the time, but we're in an age of abundance. There's enough for everyone. But people forget that because of fear. Fear just creates lack.
Yeah.
You know, it is not. There's just a lack mindset that comes with it. So that's a virus to me. And I hope that was a long-winded answer, but it's important that I describe it that way.
No, absolutely. And last week we had a session together and you sort of explained it and I thought it was so beautiful. You said, when our nervous systems are hijacked, even if it's a low grade sort of fear that's sort of in the atmosphere, we're really susceptible to, accepting what is.
Suggestibility.
Correct, yeah. Where you said, if I told you right now, okay, we need to exit, and that's the door you exit from, I would never question it. I would just go, okay, I'll follow you, go there. And I thought that was such a beautiful articulation of what is happening on a much grander scale. It's not to say, hey, these things that are happening right now aren't scary. Some of these things are scary. And whether it was COVID times or now, like uncertainty is scary for humanity.
We're not wired that. We're wired for certainty. That's one of our human needs.
Yeah. But I think the critical thing, or one of the critical messages you're sending out is, yes, all of these things happen. Humanity faces uncertainty regularly, but are you conscious enough of what it's doing to your system, and can you manage it appropriately so that you can stay connected to your heart and move through things in a grounded way versus a bunch of us becoming a bunch of emotionally immature zombies?
100%, because we become more reactional. I'm not saying that, I'm not neglecting that the wars and the things of uncertainty is happening. What I am saying is that what is happening is creating a hijack of our nervous system and our mind. And what is important is we take ownership and responsibility to be able to disconnect from that frequency, because we get entangled in those emotional frequencies and we feed it and we become part of it. Yeah. And my thing is, as you rightfully said, is having the knowledge. And also, information is not enough today. We have to actually do something with it. It's like, okay, so how do we break free? How do we, get back into coherence? How do we zoom out? How do we be conscious that we're getting addicted to the feeling of, the anxiety? Because that's an emotional trigger that comes from a hypothalamus that our body starts to go, I'm supposed to be anxious this time of the day. Where's the news? These things happen subconsciously, and a lot of people aren't aware of it. So it becomes an addiction, plus feeding the frequency. So there's a lot of things that happens on a biological level and a mental level,
Yeah, it's so interesting because a lot of my friends, I live in a circle of a lot of coaches and therapists. And when I ask them, what are some of the biggest issues you're dealing with some of your clients and patients, they say, you know what, it's as simple as they're addicted to screen time and they're not paying attention to their kid, or they're not giving themselves nourishment and replenishment. They're really just focused on their screens, whether it's Instagram or YouTube or Netflix or what have you. There's a numbing that's going on, and cognitively, most people are aware that they probably shouldn't be scrolling and doom scrolling and consuming this content, right? It's sort of like garbage in, garbage out. But this seems like very intelligent people are paying lots of money to their coaches to remind them, hey, this is probably not super healthy for you or your nervous system. What else could you be doing? And so I ask you, well, first of all, is that the same in your case? Do you find that there's a lot of people doing this?
I think the entire world is going through that war and battle again for attention.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that that's 100% accurate. I think if, again, not moving with intention of how you focus your attention when it comes to your phone, but what feeds that even more is the fear. What feeds that is the big red headlines. What feeds that is what's going to happen. Where are we? We're uncertain. So it's an additional layer that's becoming more aggressive to capture us in this black screen.
Yeah.
Which is literally becoming, like most of us are becoming, zombies, unless we are literally very intentional with our time and substituting that with an alternative. The brain needs alternatives. And it literally, because you can't say stop doing that, but then I'm used to doing that. What do I do instead?
Yeah.
So it's having the pattern interrupts, which I call. Yeah.
So what are those alternatives? What are you recommending to people out there that are like, yeah, this is definitely a problem for me?
Yeah.
What can they be doing instead of going to this, this is the ultimate time, right?
Yeah.
That I think the veils are thin for those people here in Dubai that are walking around and turning on the news.
Yeah.
They know there's a disconnect.
Yeah.
What's happening on the news and what is reality are two separate things. So I think there's a real opportunity here for people to go, oh, yeah, maybe I don't need to be watching the news because, I can get all the news I need by walking and operating in this city, talking to my friends and seeing what's going on.
Yeah.
I don't need to turn this on. But what else could they be doing?
I think I want to comment on that before telling them what they can do. And I think you're right. This is a moment and an opportunity for our community in Dubai to awaken, to realize what the external media, the mainstream media does. I mean, I know you're probably the same, but I've been getting messages from family and friends and people abroad that are really, really, really worried and in fear more than I am, and I'm sitting in Dubai.
Yeah.
So what is that telling us? It's telling us that there is an amplification of fear for the outside world, that it's the end of the world. We're moving into World War III, according to what they're seeing, right? So that's the distortion and the illusion I speak of. It's an illusion. Right? So firstly, waking up to understanding that that's always on. That's not just now. We're just in an area that we're being portrayed that way. But that's always happening. It's always been happening and will continue to happen. Same thing with COVID. There was an amplification of what was going around the world, but in reality, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
And we all know the results today, right? Yeah. So as long as this can be a lesson, because I think if we don't extract that learning and move forward with life and going, okay, this is the lesson, I'm in it, and I can see that that's a distortion, and I can see that's not real and that's fake.
Yeah.
And you go, well, why are they doing that? Well, because they want to capture people's attention. Great. How are they doing it? With fear. Great. So in the future, when that happens again, when there's fear, I need to question it, and I need to question it 10 million times. When someone's feeding me fear, that is your compass, that is your red flag to go, hang on, you're feeding me fear because there's a suggestibility of something that you're going to ask me to do, if not now, but in a moment, problems, creation, solution, it's coming. It's going to come now or just now, but there's something there, right? So there's always an unconscious hidden agenda. That's a fact, and people can look at that up. Now, what do we do, and what do I do, at least what I do with my community and my clients and my friends, and I do this myself, is that I make an effort, a real effort to design my day. Because remember, 95% of who we are is a subconscious, unconscious programs that's running on the back end. We're habitual beings. So if we don't design our habits will take over. So what I do is I literally have my template of my morning ritual. I have a morning ritual. And this morning ritual, unless the house is on fire, I'm going to do my morning ritual, which is connecting to my heart. And I make sure that I don't have my phone next to me. As an example, that's not in the room. So when I get up in the morning, the first thing I do, I have a ritual. I have my morning water with lemon and salt, if people want to do that, but that's something that cleanses my body. It's a ritual. There's benefits to it, but I just make sure that I have a habit stacking. And then after that, I sit and I have a place in my room that is with my red light therapy, and I just sit there and I do brain and heart coherence. I breathe through my heart and I just activate and I disconnect from the outside world and I go check in with my internal world. And that is moving with intention. That is a very important practice, and there's many practices I'm sure you are very familiar with that you can get into. It can be breath, it could be coherence. I'm just a big fan of brain heart coherence because it's an alignment of my work that I do. But that's the easiest way for you to center yourself and to ground yourself before the noise comes in. But also I'm intentional with how I manage my phone throughout the day, what I do with my blocking my time. Even now, when this happened in the first 48 hours, I'm human like everyone else. I got caught into it. I was on there because I was, worried about my family's safety. So I was like, and I found myself, oh, wait. I'm falling into the trap that I'm aware of as well, because any of us can fall into it. And the first 48 hours, I was like, what's going to go on? Do I need to travel? I went, I moved around. And then I was like, oh, okay. I see. Took my breath back, took a step back. I zoomed out. I was like, okay, I still want to know what's going on from trusted resources, but I'm going to have 2 windows of checking my news, my morning and my evening. I don't need to be on it the whole day. I want to carry on creating.
Yeah.
So those are simple things that I feel if we're not intentional of what it looks like to the community and the audience that are listening or watching, map that out. What's the ideal day look like for you to be able to be in control and in management of your attention? So asking yourself, what does that look like for me to be in management of my attention? So when you map it out, I call this mind mapping, then you have more of an idea and you start to take action accordingly. But if you go like, I'm going to be less on my phone, that's not going to change anything, because just words aren't going to change it. You have to have an action plan, and you have to see it into existence and force yourself. And it's uncomfortable in the beginning to tell yourself to sit down when you're addicted to your phone in the beginning, but you have to remind yourself, as one of my mentors says, that the body is almost like the animal, and you're telling that body to sit down. I'm in charge. Wait. And you're going to sit for 10 minutes, for 15 minutes, and you're gonna get agitated in the beginning. You're gonna get like, I should be on my phone. I should be checking this. And you're just gonna overcome that, and you're just gonna keep sitting. And over time, you break that. There's a release of energy that shows you that you're in charge, and it becomes very easy. To be honest with you, it's not as hard as what we think.
Yeah, and this is why so many people recommend meditation. It's not for all of us, right? But the idea is to have moments of deep stillness and presence. And this is the yin and yang. Really, the culmination of both is actually coming together in stillness, in presence, to really slow things down. And actually, in having a session with you last week, it was really beautiful. Generally, I would say I'm quite a grounded person. And yet having this session with you made me realize that in one part of my life, I was slightly dysregulated. And it wasn't just recently, it had been going on for a few months. And in case there are other people out there that are like, no, I'm fine, I'm moving, whatever, but they haven't sat still enough to really check in to see if they're dysregulated. I wanted to ask you, how does someone know if they're in chronic fight or flight? What does that feel like?
A lot of people are in chronic and fight or flight in the sympathetic nervous system, and they've stuck in it for so long that they don't know.
They just think that's life.
They just think that's life. And unfortunately, until they have a session or they sit down and I'm able to shift their energy through our modalities, they realize, oh my gosh, the body begins to relax and realize that they are moving into parasympathetic, right? So it's a very unconscious process. Remember, our state is 95% of the time unconscious. What is a state? For those that are not familiar, it's how we think and how we feel. And it's our nervous system that's switched on based on our thinking and feeling. So our state is 95% unconscious, which produces our behaviors. And behaviors are 95% unconscious. So there's always a precursor. So state, the precursor is the precursor to your behavior. Your behaviors are the precursor to your life results of how you show up, how you do things. But
Isn't that crazy? I just want to push on that.
Yeah.
That 95% of our state, and as you reflected, like 95% of like our direction forwards or how we're manifesting or working with our life is unconscious.
100%.
And so then my question becomes, can you try and make it 50%?
Well, this is where my work comes into play. So if we follow the chain, so I said the state determines our behavior. Both are unconscious, and our behavior determines our results in life, whatever result it is, right? So a lot of people, when they come to me like, well, I have a result in my life that I'd like to change. So most people, what they do is they go, help me change the behavior. And we all try and change our behaviors, but what happens after time, we switch back to the programs. Even if we try and there's effort and we go and we want to do the meditation, and we want to do this, or we want to go to the gym and we want to lose, whatever it is, we all know that we go back to the patterns that is designed within our subconscious. So then people go, okay, cool. So I understand that, but then what do I need to do? So I say, well, ultimately, if you understand your state, which is how you think and you feel, that's the ultimate place you want to be in. You want to be in a peak performance state. You want to be in a coherent state, because that's going to determine your behavior. But if we understand, as you rightfully said, 95% of the state is unconscious. So where's the gold? The gold is our conditioning. So our conditioning determines our state of being. So how you are conditioned, how you are wired, and how you are subconsciously set up, that's going to determine the primary states that you're tapping into throughout your day. So a person that is in a negative state, ultimately it's switching all the time. But what switches the state is our perception of our external reality as we walk into the room. The meaning-making process we give that determines our state of being versus someone else. Is that making sense?
Yeah.
Shall I repeat that again?
So how you perceive the world is dependent on how you are wired.
Your conditioning.
Your conditioning.
Correct.
And where do you get your conditioning from?
So your conditioning starts from your moment you were born all the way to this very generous present moment right now. But also it can also have impacts from your even prior to being in your mom's womb. It can be through that experiences of her negative charge that she's going through. So conditioning okay, so let me make this a bit easier. So what is conditioning? So conditioning, if you open the box of conditioning, inside conditioning, we have a multitude of things. One is how we are as an identity. So it's our beliefs, it's our decision-making processes, it's how we see ourselves, it's the self-image, right? That's been conditioned throughout our experiences in life, the events we had, what we've been told, what meanings we've given our experiences. If you remember, we spoke about that through our life. So that's always happening subconsciously. That's an unconscious process. It's a prime directive of our mind. Our mind is going, that happened to me, that means that happened to me, that means that. And most of the time, the meanings are out of balance, but we have to assign a meaning. So those meanings become beliefs, becomes perceptions, becomes self-image. That's one aspect. But throughout that, through our conditioning, we also develop what is called values, what we value in life, our core values. So most people have values, but the values that the top five values that we have in our life determine our actions, determine our choices, determine how we prioritize ourselves, how we prioritize our relationships, how we prioritize life, how we prioritize our work and our health and everything else. So values is in the box of conditioning. What else is in the box of conditioning is our emotions. It's how we have been feeling in the body. That's also determining a lot of the subconscious wiring of our filters of reality, of how we perceive ourselves in the world. Because emotions is energy in motion, but it also has an influence in the quality of our thinking. We can never think greater than we feel.
We can never think greater than we feel. You're right. If I'm really feeling upset, even if I'm like,
if I want to come and cheer you up, I'm
good.
like, hey man, cheer. Like, no, I need to change how I feel. So that's a big part of our conditioning. A lot of people are stuck in the past. They're stuck in a certain emotion in the past that is predetermining their current reality, because their emotion, they never broke out of it. So they continue perceiving themselves and reality in a certain way. So they invite the same relationships, they invite the same experiences, they invite the same situations, and they go, why this keeps happening to me? It's because there's a part of you that's stuck in the past, that identity that hasn't shifted. Therefore, you will continue playing that same theme and attracting that same reality, and you are part of it. You are the creator of your reality. This is not a woo-woo. This is actually how it works. So understanding that the emotions have a role. So that's conditioning, right?
I also want to touch on this because it's reminding me, one of my former masters used to always say, emotion, energy in motion, as you said, really only lasts a maximum of 60 seconds if everything is flowing correctly. And so if you're finding yourself really stressed or really angry and it's just rumination, that's usually the mind making that just continuing,
of course,
and self-sabotaging that. But emotions by themselves is not the, culprit. Let's say these are just energies that wish to be felt, wish to be moved through, whether it's grief or anger or
100%.
stress. They're meant to move through your body. And one of the telltale signs is that something is off, and most likely some sort of mental construct is that you're stuck in emotion.
100. Well said. I summarize that in a sentence that I tell my beautiful clients and tribe. I say, you are always feeling your thinking.
You are always feeling your thinking. I love that. Yeah.
Right? So you're always feeling your thinking. So when someone is not feeling good in the body, It's because the mind is stuck in the past and reminiscing over a certain thing about an event or an experience, subconsciously or consciously, and the feedback loop is producing that chemicals in the brain that's letting the body feel the charge, feeling the emotions, and they're still stuck in the past.
Yeah.
So that,
and I'll also say, what I've noticed is if you're stuck in the past, it's usually a bit of a depressive state, and if you're worried about the future, it's an anxious state.
Correct, 100%.
Which is why we really want to stay in the present moment.
Beautifully said, 100%. That is the name of the game, right? It's the name of the game is disconnecting from the past, and just extracting what we can extract that is serving us in the present moment, and also having a true alignment that when we look into the future, we look through the lens of optimism and confidence and love and excitement and inspiration, so that we continue creating. When people are, but they're all interconnected. Like when I work with clients who have anxiety, especially these days, I've been having a lot of cases, which again, rightfully so. But what is anxiety? Anxiety is the only emotion of the future. And there is an unconscious process that I'm worrying about the uncertainty of the future, and my mind paints a picture of everything going doom and gloom, and the physical body literally lives that experience here and now. So the body is always living either in the past or in the future. And the name of the game is bringing the body to the now moment. So you liberate your energy, and also you take charge and control. Most people, and I say this with love when I work with them, they're either in the past or in the future. And the past determines their future, because if you have a lot of fear charge in your nervous system from past experiences, naturally speaking, you're going to be an anxious person. So a lot of people say, like, I want you to help me with my anxiety. I'm like, okay, cool. That means you have fear from the past. Let's clear the fear. They're like, but does it make sense? I'm like, no, trust me. Let's clear the fear. Once you clear the fear, your perception of reality, the way you delete, distort, and generalize data, information, shifts, because you're no longer influenced by, well, that happened to me. That means it's going to happen to me again. Do you know what I mean? That's through relationships. That's through anything in life, if that makes sense.
And like, what a perfect opportunity for me to bring up my session with you last week. It's something that I've been working on for over a decade. And it's funny that I've replaced limiting belief with other limiting beliefs, like slightly better limiting beliefs. But it was very much around my relationship, feeling anxiety, some of my challenges in childhood where, I had a father leave the home at some time. My mother left me at 16. I have to say that I have beautiful relationships with them both, but regardless, my nervous system seems to have wired in a way that when my romantic relationships are not perfect, when we're arguing more than usual, or, there's things happening, I start to nitpick and I start to become hypervigilant. And that was first time when I was like, oh, I am in a state of hypervigilance. I am in a state of heightened, dysregulation of my nervous system around my partner, but in the rest of my life, I was operating in my business, and I was able to compartmentalize, and I was super grounded in everything else. But when it came to my romantic relationship, I noticed I've been in a low grade of hypervigilance for several months.
100%.
And I wasn't aware of it, despite doing this work,
Yeah.
And it was such a beautiful example that you had set.
Thank you. And what we did is really break that state and shift you back into balance. That's the ultimate aspect, because remember, a state, and this is really important, is going to distort your reality.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean by distortion, right? So distortion, for those who want to define the word, it's falsifying information to appear real.
Yeah, and in my case, it was very much like he's the problem.
And by the way, you believe it because you see it that way, because the mind is going to distort it and generalize and delete, and just so you can go back to fulfilling that prophecy of the old.
Yeah, it was like he's the problem. He's not going to stick around. He doesn't care enough, and one by one, as I reflect back on all of those, I go, oh gosh, those are so distorted. Of course they were, of course it always comes back as we do the work. It does come back to us.
Of course.
Like what is the reality we are creating?
Always, 100%. And thank you for being open through that session. It was lovely to see you shift. and also to see you take your power back. It's just a reminder, right? Like, we are really the creators of our life, and this is not poetic, it's the truth. Everything we see and perceive in our reality is a reflection of our inner world. And until we change within us, then the things outside of us will continue to show up. Because, as Carl Jung would say, perception is projection. And this is why I love my work, because my work is all about perception. It's all about reconditioning the inner identity, the inner perception of our world, and doing it on a deeper level. Because once that changes, everything outside you changes. Literally, you start to see people in a different light. And you go, hang on, it was like, how come am I noticing they're saying this now or doing that now that I never noticed before? It's because your mind is literally going to delete it. That's how our mind works. It will delete that out of your reality. It's like driving here and you ask me, how many yellow cabs did you see on the way? I'm like, I didn't see any. Meanwhile, my mind saw every single one, but my mind is not focused on it. Therefore, it deletes it out of my reality. It's there. It's always been there. It's like buying a new car. You want to buy a new silver BMW, and all of a sudden you see all silver BMWs show up in your reality. Were they there all the time, or they just show up? They were there all the time, but your mind did not capture that. So that is what happens all the time with our mind. There's literally mechanisms of the mind that determines our filter of reality. And we see 2,000 bits of our reality versus, 3-4 million bits of information per second for processing. So our mind is literally narrowing its focus all the time, and it's using its conditioning from the past and the beliefs and the perceptions and everything else to predetermine that outcome, to predetermine that reality, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let me take this back for a second, because we're talking about our conditioning affecting our state, 95% of it being unconscious. What do we do here? What's the, it sounds like there's some sort of like software update that needs to regularly happen.
Well, I would say regularly. It depends on the type of work you're doing, to be honest with you. A lot of, the way I got into this journey myself is, if I go back and I rewind the movie of my memory, I was a regional business development director running, an ad tech company, very successful at what I did, getting paid very well, running a team of 40 across the region. And I was unconscious to the reality that there was no other opportunity for me to create a life of freedom for myself. There was no opportunity for me to do things on my terms, and I felt fulfilled, unfulfilled, lacked. So what happens? I had more anxiety. I was overweight. I was unhappy. I was drinking a lot. And then I realized, that this reality, this behavior, I'm not happy. And if I continued on this trajectory, I'm going to end up getting worse. So the first point of awareness is to be aware, right? Everyone is aware, no matter what. You're aware if you're happy or not. You're aware if your behaviors are serving you today or not, right? It's a very simple equation, right? So first and foremost is to have the first point of awareness. Then the second point is really understanding that you're able to change, because a lot of people don't understand. I was one of them. I didn't know that I was able to change my life until I met a mentor who literally did the work that I do today and changed my entire way of perceiving myself and reality. Then I was like, wow, I didn't realize these tools exist, where I'm able to reprogram my mind, the way I think, the way I show up, the way I feel about myself, the way I see the world, the way I see my relationships. Everything started to change, and it felt magical at some stages, because I felt like I was seeing life through a different person, like a different consciousness, different level of mind. That's where New Mind came from. It's like, I realized a new mind is developing. Therefore, I see the world differently. I see myself differently, right? So the most important thing is to understand that is doable. It's available. It's scientific backed. It's neurotransformational work. It's understanding that we have the language to get to the subconscious mind and change the programming, change of how we saw ourselves, the way we decided certain things about how we showed up as a self-image. So all self-image, right? But also there's the emotions that can be released. There's a lot of other aspects. So conditioning is just about going into the program and going, okay, these programs don't serve me today. I need to get rid of them. I need to get rid of what they made me feel. And I need to start to feed the mind of, what do I truly believe? That's why affirmations for me, and I say this with respect, is really a very weak point to start. A lot of people say, I do affirmations and I'll repeat that. I'm like, can you feel it in your body? No. Do you believe it? No. You're wasting your time. You have to first believe it and you have to buy into it and you have to connect with it, then the affirmations are amazing because then they solidify.
Right.
But if you're saying, I'm going to be a millionaire and I'm going to be this and I'm going to be that, but inside the body's going, no, you're not. You're not good enough. You can't do that. That's the inner conditioning. That's the inner roommate that needs to be aligned with you. Is that making sense? So that's the conditioning aspect. It's zooming out and understanding fundamentally, what parts of my life do I want to change? What are the things that in my life that I'm not satisfied with that I'd like to change? It's a very big question I ask in my analysis, and I'm sharing it with everyone today. Just take a pen and paper. Ask yourself, where in my life are the things I'm not satisfied with and the things I'd like to change? And when I ask that question, it's not like I'm ungrateful. No. I'm grateful for everything. So don't come from a place of judgment. Come from a place of, I am worthy. I'm worthy to create a life that I want. So what is it that I want? As the creator, as the conscious co-creator of your life, right? We create through the divine intelligence, through source energy, through God, Allah, whatever you want to call it. It's all the same. It's all the same source. But we're creating through this consciousness. Cool. So ask yourself these strong questions and be okay with not having with what you have and not being satisfied. That's okay. That's part of us. We need to create.
And also perhaps if some people who are doing this are coming up against, oh, can I ask for that? Then maybe that is also an indicator of where there might be some self-worth wounds. Yeah.
Of course, 100%. And that's why this question is important. And that's why it's important to face that and not to be, and when you feel that resistance in the body, that's the body saying, hey, you need some work here. It's not settling with you, and I'm always saying that to my, very high performing clients that are like really high achievers. And I'm like, I throw a number at them or I throw something at them and I monitor their physical body and I'm like, oh, that didn't land. So there's this, you feel resistance to you being a multimillionaire or you being a successful entrepreneur or you being in the relationship that you believe you're worthy of. Whatever that is, that's where the work is. It's to be comfortable and physically. The subconscious mind is the body. The body is the subconscious mind. That's where the data is. It's how you gauge with that emotion. You gauge with it in feeling. You gauge on how it feels in your body when you speak it into existence. That's where the misalignment is. That's why alignment is important. It's like, you want to know what you want. You want to know what's in the way of why you believe you can't achieve it. And you need to get rid of that emotions and perceptions. And that becomes easier for you to bring into your life because now you believe you can. Like Henry Ford said, whether a man believes he can or believes he can't, he's right. So it all starts with your belief.
I know you work a lot with both men and women. On the men's side, you've worked with traders, a lot of entrepreneurs, and I know you work a lot with women as well. I'm super curious. Are the issues that men and women come to you with, are they the same? Or are there sort of like themes around both?
Good question. So firstly, let me separate the women from the men. So the women, what I love working with the feminine personally for my line of work because it's easier in the context of the feminine is more connected to her emotions. So we have a little bit more guidance happening early on of understanding where the things that are resonating versus where the resistance is in the body, right? It not having to say that the men don't do that, but it takes a little bit more of an activation for the men to feel more comfortable and vulnerable purely because of conditioning. Right? We've been conditioned as men not to connect with our emotions. We've been conditioned as men as not to feel, not to face, not to think, not to, it's a vulnerability or it's a weakness. That's conditioning. So what in my line of work with men, I need to rewire that first. I need to change that whole perception of no, you need to be able to release. You need to be able to open up. You need to be, it's safe to do that. And then from there, then progression happens, which is amazing, right? So firstly, that's the key differentiator between women, feminine and masculine, right? Especially in our world. Doesn't matter what culture, most of it is the same, to be honest. We've been conditioned as men to be toughen up, to be strong, not to speak, not to can't face that. And we're so good at suppressing. No one's as good as the man as suppressing, The women, yes, they suppress, but they're more emotional. That's just the way the divine has created the feminine, right? Think about it. They're more fiery. They're more expressive. So in my line of work, it just makes life easier. I'll be honest, right? But I work with both. Now, in terms of commonality, with all honesty, there are 3 things I've picked up over the years. And I've been doing this now for 8 years, going into my 9th year. So 8 years, actually. So there's always a common pattern of an insecurity that is both available at women and men, okay? I see that throughout all my work. And I usually that's one of the roots, right? And that is going back to the inner child of not being worthy, not being good enough, and not being, loved enough or accepted or a sense of accepted or being or perceived in a way that is wanted, right? Both men and women, right? However, the other aspects of what that generates, because when the root is developed, it impacts different parts of our reality, our life. So everyone might have a different, weighing down more in their career, or it's weighing down more in their relationships, or it's weighing down in different aspects of themselves. So everyone's different, because there'll be a challenge that's showing up in their reality. And if you trace that back, it goes back to these roots. Ultimately, those are the fundamental roots. You got it? They're fundamental, right? That's what throws most people out of balance.
The roots, when you say roots, you mean like the worthiness wound?
100%. The worthiness wound.
Am I good enough?
But not good enough, not loved enough, not seen enough. It's always those are the main core. However, they impact differently for different stages of life, and they impact differently in terms of based on their conditioning. So where in their conditioning they didn't get that part, it starts to reflect in that part of their life. Also, it could be a relationship with money. It could be a relationship with intimacy. It could be a relationship with themselves. They're disconnected from themselves. They don't love themselves, right? So these are different parts, but ultimately it's all based on the same thing. And it's interesting because when we overcome that, we start to realize that the soul of who we are, the essence of who we are, is more expansive than it ever was, but we've been blocked by the limitations of the mind. So the mind limits us from expanding our soul purpose of who we actually are, which is limitless, right? We are limitless beings, but the limitations that is set on us is our own conditioning. When I remove that, I find most people become liberated and more expressive and more creative, because what happens is the soul is starting to go, oh, now you're giving me space. Now you're not trapping me, the higher self, the soul, the core of who we are, like the expression, the authenticity, the truth. No more masks, just be yourself, right? That's where most people are most magnetic and most powerful and most happy, actually, because they're just comfortable with who they are and they're not worried about what people judge them or think who they are, or they're not worried. There's no anxiety. It's like, I just want to be me, and whoever is going to accept me for who I am, I'm happy. But that's self-acceptance. And that's where most people struggle. It's they don't accept themselves, and they are working hard to show up in a certain way, to be perceived in a certain way, which takes a lot of energy. And they feel that they're worried because if they don't show up with their relationship this way, they won't be loved, or they'll be rejected. Or if they don't do this that way, they won't have friends. Or if they do this, they might get fired. So the expression of the self, which is the authenticity of the soul or the purpose of who we are, is very much suppressed, but it's suppressed by our conditioning. So I hope that answers that question.
I love that, as I really feel into our conversation, there's a lot of conversation around conditioning, and it really comes back down into what our inputs are, right? What our conditioning is in life. But more and more, it's like, who are we letting in around us? Who are the friends that we're talking to? What's the news that we're consuming? What's the information that we're allowing to occupy so much space in our minds? And can we create enough expansion and stillness for not the outside world to influence us, but for our inner world, which you're saying is so expansive and so full, like it's full of imagination and possibility that we can't even imagine what we're capable of. Can we allow that deep, presence to just blow up and allow us to be our fullest version of ourselves? And everything just seems to come back down to cut out the noise. Cut out the noise, your own noise, other people's noise, your own noise in the sense that of our limiting beliefs that we've sort of, created in ourselves, the narratives, the, Instagram perfect lives that, that's noise of like what we're supposed to live. The war on the news is also noise about whether we're supposed to be fearful right now about what's going on. Like there's just a lot of noise, and it just reminds me of like how powerful it is for us to find moments of stillness so we can remember
100%
who we are.
I have this here. That's one of the reasons I have remember actually here. It's always a reminder. I wrote it here. Is to remember who we are. And the thing is, I say this for my very close network of friends and family, and I just say, so who are you? And then they'll say, well, I'm a mother, I'm a father, or they give me their title, they give me these things. And I say, if you sit here and you keep defining who you are, I just have a message to you. You are so much more than who you think you are. And you keep going with that. You can keep defining and expressing, and who are you? So beyond that, who are you? And beyond that, who are you? Until you realize you're so much more than who you think you are. And that's the expansion of the self. It's actually a very powerful meditative thing to do, where you sit with yourself and or you have someone in front of you that asks, so who are you? And then they'll answer, okay, beyond that, who are you? And you keep letting them go and go and go and go and go. And the next thing they're like, I'm the universe. I'm expanded. I'm connected to sort, like, because it's the truth. It just starts to show up through the subconscious mind. See, conscious mind, subconscious mind, which most people don't talk about, is the superconscious mind, which is the mind of God, which is the mind where we can only access it through deep disconnection of our outside environments and go inwards and stop the thought, take control, just stop thinking. You have the power to stop thinking. You actually do have the power. Most people don't know that, but you can actually determine to stop thinking and just come back into the silence, into the presence of who we are right now. And this nothingness that's connected to everything. A lot of people forget that, but we have that power, and the noise is just about quieting the brainwaves of the brain and getting into coherence. And then all of a sudden you're in that silence, in that void of everything physical, and you connect to everything else, which is into the superconscious. And honestly, there is where you find peace, and there is where you find all the answers that you need. And we all have access to it. And I mean this on a quantum level, but a lot of people just don't know how to get to that. I actually, by the way, I do that I think I told you in my quantum mastery. I teach people the quantum model of reality, of going into that. That's only for my advanced, but I genuinely give them that tools to go, oh wow, I didn't realize I have a deeper expansion of me connecting to the field and connecting to things that are much more bigger than who we think we are.
Yeah, I remember doing a similar exercise. I think it was one of Osho's meditations, specifically designed for us Westerners, because our minds were so much more activated than let's say the Eastern yogis that he was dealing with as well. And this question of who are you? Who are you? Who are you? And realizing that when you do say things like a daughter, a woman, a human, anything, a business role, whatever it is,
identity,
an emotion, these are all like egoic identities. And as they start falling off, and definitely an hour in, you're bored of this game. And 4 hours in, you're just obliterated.
Yeah.
You have nothing else left, dissolve. Where you really do dissolve into I am nothing.
And everything.
And space.
So
and
powerful
time.
though. It is so powerful, honestly. And again, it's a practice, but I believe the most peace I've ever experienced in my life, honestly speaking, is in that space.
In the void.
It's also, but also the void is the bridge. So you can stay there. And that's what most yogis do, by the way. They stay in the void, and that's where they're happy to stay in the void. But the other layer on that is moving from the void into the 5D, into the quantum model of reality, into the field, which is connecting everything physical. And there's actually science today that defines how we can interact with that field, that field of energy, and call into things into existence. So I know this might sound very esoteric, but it actually is quantum physics.
Can you talk us, I'm so curious about this quantum level, and I'm sure it's really difficult to dive into in a short period of time. Yeah. But can you talk a little bit more into what's possible in that realm, and what is the most important pieces for people to start distilling in order to harness that power?
I'll do my best. So I think the most important thing is to understand that there are models of reality that we live in today. So most of us have been conditioned, I use that word again, to experience reality through 3D reality. So I want something, I want to create I want to buy a house, I want to get married, I want to achieve something. So what we do is the mind thinks in a linear fashion. So we go, it's going to take me X amount of time and X amount of space to achieve that reality, to achieve that objective, right? That's how we think in linear. So what we do is we act, we force, we push, we do things to get it. And most people do. So that's the reality I lived most of my life, especially in my old life. I call it my old self, where, we do things in a 3D model of reality. But there is another model of reality, which I got exposed to through different mentors, including Dr. Joe Dispenza himself, which allows us to understand that we are able to actually create and bring things into our reality in a different manner. And that is done through a model of reality that actually determines the feeling, as opposed to waiting for something to happen and then calling that frequency in the body. So what that does, it's the embodiment of changing your nervous system and expanding your nervous system and expanding your inner world, where you connect with the outcomes that you want from a frequency level, from an energetic level, which pulls that reality into existence. This is the Newtonian. So Newtonian physics is what people call predictability. This is non-predictability. It's the opposite. So you're able to bring that into your life, but you bring it from the unknown because you're playing with the unknown. So you start to have synchronicities, you start to have serendipities that show up in your reality, where you're like, how did this happen so fast? I wasn't in a relationship, and all of us, and I've been looking for a relationship. But when you teach your body that you don't need one, you have it already. When you teach your body that you are full of love and you don't need anything outside of you, because the need of something is the physical body reads it. You can actually measure it. It's I'm separate from it. I don't have it. So when you change and you teach the body,
it kind of repels it.
It repels it. It creates separation. But when you teach the body, and there's practices that actually creates the body to go, I'm experiencing it now, and you actually measure that on a frequency level. So energetically speaking, you're radiating abundance. You're radiating love. So naturally speaking, you start to understand that that's how you bring it into life. And this is not, the manifestation nonsense that you find on YouTube. This is how the quantum model works. Einstein himself said it's not matter that determines the field, it's field that creates matter. So what you're doing is you're going to the field, you're creating from the field, and you're projecting it back into physical reality from an energetic level. Most people want something, when they get it, they feel it. That's the old paradigm. New paradigm is work on yourself to walk it, talk it, feel it now, experiencing it now in your internal world. And what will happen is, it's the law. It will show up in your world, and it's the law. This is how it works. And I'm a personal case study of this in my own reality. The businesses I've created, the opportunities I've done with the academies I've built and closed and opened other things in life, all of it started in my mind. All of it started in my internal world. I used to see myself on stage before I ever went on stage and speaking to people on different parts of the world. I used to see myself flying in business and going, how would it feel to fly business to go to the United States of America and travel from Dubai? It sounded nice, in my mind, I swear. And then fast forward a few months later, I'm on a plane flying business, going to present on doing an academy or presenting. So that's not a coincidence.
Yeah.
You cannot convince me that's a coincidence. You can't convince me that what I created in my internal world, by feeling it, and it's not always the same exactly, but it's very similar, because it has to come from the unknown. It has to. So we're not supposed to be very rigid about the outcomes we want in life. It has to happen at a certain time, at a certain place, and I have to make money. So you have to be a little bit flow. So just to add, because I think this is an important thing that I want to end on this note with. One of my mentors that I worked under, and he was an amazing mentor, a Serbian gentleman, Robert Simic. He said, and he obviously learned from his mentors. Everyone learns from other mentors. And it's important we give recognition to our mentors, because this knowledge is always passed down. But one thing he said, and it really changed my life, and I think if the listeners are going to pay attention to what I'm about to say, it will change theirs, is in reality and how we look at life, is that the most important things that I've been doing in the last decade that's changed my life, and it changed the people I work with today, is follow your heart. And do the best you can. So following your heart with excitement. So what excites you in life? People go, well, I don't know what I want to do. I'm like, start looking at things that excite you in life. A lot of people are in jobs, mundanes, they hate. So, okay, stop, stay there, but start exploring what excites you. Cool. So that's number one. Follow your excitement. And usually the excitement has to be in synchronization with the path of the heart. So it's exciting you, but it's heartfelt, you know, it's something that is like operating from here. It feels good. Do the best of your ability on that journey, whatever that is. Just do your best. You know what your best is, and it doesn't matter. Don't judge yourself. Just do your best. If you didn't do it today, do it tomorrow, but do your best. And third, and the most important thing, is let go of any expectation, which most people struggle with.
Yeah.
Because especially my high achievers are like, what do you mean let go? I want to achieve. I'm like, I know it's hard, but trust me, if you're doing your best and you're following your heart, I guarantee you'll get more than what you expected.
Right.
You know, but most people struggle with the expectation part because they're getting pressure from the outside world and they're pressurized by their conditioning. So those two elements needs to shift. But when you do things and you let go and you surrender, and you know this more than anyone, I know I can see that through, you know, getting to know you. But surrendering is letting go of expectation. That's where everything starts to flow. It literally flows into your reality. And you're not operating from fear or lack or expect. Because expectation is where most of us get disappointed, even in your case with the relationship. If there's an expectation,
100%.
I do not expect anything from anyone because I just know if you start to create that in your mind, there's going to be misalignment. So you're just going to hurt yourself.
Yeah, and even yourself. I do see that, like, people have always said expectation is the killer of all happiness.
100%.
And you could do the exact same thing, and without expectation, it'd be really marvelous. And with expectation, it's like, eh.
Yeah.
So I really see that. And also going back to the whole world of quantum physics and how you can manifest in that, you know, there are real studies that just scratch the surface of it. But from my collegiate basketball days, you know, so our coaches were a little bit ahead in doing a lot of visualization exercises.
Yeah.
And I know from the NBA and any professional athlete now, they spend a lot of time doing sports psychology, which is all about envisioning how they feel, how they smell, how they like their muscles feel, whatever. And they're visualizing that perfect shot at different places. They spend just as much time on the visualization and really imagining what a high pressure, you know, shot or goal or whatever is in that moment, so that they're prepared when it comes to reality. And then all of a sudden it manifests in reality.
100%.
And so that's just like a small, there's so many studies on this that have improved, like someone who has not practiced physically.
Yes.
But standing there and visualizing doing a reverse, you know, elbow shot or something. And then them going to that place after hours and hours of just visualizing it, and then their body does it, you know? And so I really feel that there's some real scientific evidence around this.
No, of course,
this
that's
field.
new. That they call, in neuroscience, it's called neuroplasticity. So it's the ability to mentally rehearse and create neural pathways in the brain that I actually coach this in some of my work, where it's mental rehearsal. I call it mind mapping. So you map that into your mind as a software, it solidifies in your brain, and then you mentally rehearse it. And that becomes an external thing that you experience in life as a deja vu. Because what you're doing is the body, the body doesn't know the difference between what's real and not, the unconscious mind. It doesn't know the difference. So when you understand that fundamentally, it means that you can wire in certain parts of the identity or perception in your brain that is as if it's happened already. That's what the work is, right? So when you've rehearsed it multiple times and you've ingrained that in you as an identity or as whatever outcome it is, it also collectively creates a frequency, energetically speaking, in the body as well, which subconsciously connects to that outcome in your external reality, which most people don't know. So, you know, what fires together in the brain. Our brain is electric. It's an electrical charge. So there's electricity sending out. So the brain sends the electrical charge. The heart is the magnetic charge, so that it tracks it in the body. So the inner work and the work we do is about understanding the different mechanisms of the body that produce certain pulses that engages with our external reality as well. And this is going deep now, but just to give you context a little bit. So there's a lot to it, and there's evidence. This is neuroscience, by the way. This is how our brain works. A lot of people just are not prone to it. But it's exactly how the same when we have a trauma. The trauma solidifies in the body, in the brain. Something happens to me. It's a heightened emotional experience. The event is so tough that it's really been wired in, and the body's stuck in the past because it's living that experience over and over again, over and over again, over again. That's where people are not, they're not moving. They're in survival all the time, and we need to move from survival to creation, and that's expansion.
And, as I think about this, I really feel that one of the challenges I find in a lot of people, not just men or women, but altogether, is sometimes we're disconnected from what it is that we desire most. Like, what are our desires? And really, we can't start this visualization process without cluing in on that. And you gave such a beautiful example of, okay, you might not know exactly what you desire out of your whole life, but follow the current, follow the energy of what excites you and inspires you. And over time, you get to that. But it does make me think, okay, the little tidbits I'm taking away from this conversation is remove the outside noise, quiet the inside noise, feel into what actually excites you from within, not from the outside, but from within yourself. Start visualizing without expectation of success, like releasing outcome.
Yes.
But really the joy of doing for the sake of doing what is exciting.
The journey
itself.
Yeah. We're supposed to enjoy the journey, and all we have is the now moment, Erica. And when we understand that on a deeper level, our job is just to be in our excitement like a child that's born that doesn't know any better before conditioning. It's that creative, childlike exploration, creation. We are born to create, and that's when most people find themselves in a form of a depressive mode or not happy, is because they have restricted themselves from exploring, from creating, from also being okay to explore. Like, it's okay to explore something and realize, oh, that wasn't for me. People are afraid to even explore and go, I will waste my time. Based on what? Time. You know what I'm trying to say? So go for it. Try. You only live life once. If you don't try something or explore something, you don't want to live with regret. I'd rather say I've tried 10 things, none of them worked, but at least one of them did, and then now I'm in my journey. But and that's where people get, well, I don't know, do I have a purpose? It doesn't have to be something that means change the world, but it's just something about you.
I love that.
Yeah.
Sam, I think what's really powerful about this conversation is that it's reminding people how powerful they are.
Oh yes, they are so powerful.
And that the fight we often have is internal. What are a few words you can leave us with here? Perhaps it's an advice that you've been given, or advice that you always give to others.
Well, honestly, the one I mentioned earlier, which is following your heart, is a really important thing. I think most of us today are really disconnected from the heart, and I think the heart is one of the most powerful, beautiful. It's not just a muscle, it's a vortex. They actually opened the heart and they found out it was a vortex. Did you know about that?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so the heart is actually wrapped in a vortex shape. Like, it's not just you can look that up online. It's quite incredible. But the heart is the most important thing right now, and we are all called back to remember our heart. So my message to everyone is practice connecting with your heart. What does that look like? Close your eyes, focus all your attention on your heart center, and just simply breathe through your heart, no expectation. Just allow the breath to go in through the nose and out through the heart. And what I do, and I encourage everyone to do, is imagine your heart has a window, and this flow of energy opens the heart. And what that does, it starts to wake up the heart. And as you focus your attention on your heart, I want you to think of one thing in your life, no matter where you are, no matter how hard life is today. I guarantee you there's one thing you can be grateful for. And I want you to connect with that thing, person, situation, experience, whatever it is. Connect with it as you breathe through the heart. And what we will do, you will begin to elevate an emotion, an energy that heart activates. And what that will do, it will send a signal to the brain, and it will remind you that you are powerful, that you are safe, that you are guided, that you are always on the path of a heart, and that will give you the messages. So if you're confused, if you need guidance, ask that question. Ask any question you want to your heart, and then listen, pay attention, because the heart has its own neurites, 40,000 neurites the heart has. I need to double check that, but I think that's the right number. And that is its own intelligence, its own mind. And my message to everyone is go back to your heart, because I guarantee you it's the best compass that the divine has given us to move through life, you know?
Wow. Beautiful, brother.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, and what a beautiful element to end this on, because you are the man to rewire a new mind and then to come back to the mind of the heart, the intelligence of the heart. That's so beautiful.
Thank you so much for allowing me to share the space with you and to express myself. It has been an honor. Thank you for asking the beautiful questions and for holding the space. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey there. If you like this episode and you're getting some beautiful transmissions or are feeling inspired to support this podcast in any way, the best way to do that is to give us a rating on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, on YouTube, or wherever it is that you're plugging into the EnlightenDXB podcast. You can also follow us on Instagram at EnlightenDXB. If you want to reach out to any of the guests we have on the show, you can check out their profiles and their work at www.EnlightenDXB.com. And for those of you in Dubai looking for community, retreats, or additional resources, you can also sign up to our emailing list there. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next episode. Until then, I wish you more joy, more ease, and a little sprinkle of grace.